Tom, thank you very much for joining me today.
Yeah.
I'm here at the HPCLC conference in Chicago. If you don't mind, just by starting to introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Tom Scalone, as mentioned. So we're at the HPCLC, so that's the Health and Personal Care Logistics Conference. And I'm part of the board of directors for that, and I'm stepping in as the president for that organization coming out of this conference. So very excited to be here.
Fantastic, congratulations.
Thanks.
That's kind of a big job coming up. Maybe just tell me a little bit about the conference and why it's kind of unique there.
Yeah, so again, HPCLC is different from a lot of the other conferences where it's run by pharma companies and personal care companies, and it's all structured around education. So that's the core mission of the organization, is try to educate the people in the industry, other partners. How do we benchmark against each other? How do we learn from each other? And really, how do we bring the industry forward, right? What are pain points that one organization is seeing, and how do they learn from another? And again, try to develop new solutions to help the personal care industry.
Yep, fantastic. Let's talk about your day job then.
Yes.
As a director at BMS, exactly what is your day today?
Yeah, so my day to day actually changed roles recently. So now I'm over in our commercial organization, and I have our responsibility of our wholesaler relationships in the U.S. market. So it's managing our wholesaler agreements. How do we get product to them? How do we sort of work in tandem with them as new products come to market, and making sure the products are always in the right place when it needs to be for our patients.
Right.
Yeah.
Good. This morning we talked about Network 4.0. What's sort of the key nugget that you took out of that conversation this morning?
Yeah, so I think it's, part of where it's great to hear from a lot of the industry leaders up on part of HPCLC is, you hear from everybody's journey on the digital revolution, if you want to call it that. So, some of those key nuggets that I've learned is that it's really a journey. It's not a sprint. A lot of organizations need to set this as their strategy from the C-suite and really kind of drive that down into the supply chain, or the working with various partners to kind of be on that journey with them. So it's got to have the right sponsorship, but again, it's putting that business case together to figure out where do you need to transition from a manual to a digital solution, and then how do you continue to build on progress in an organization.
And I like the question you asked before to the speakers at Merck and Transvoyant in regards to, well, where do you start, right?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest pain point when people think of digital, they think of that digital revolution. It's almost like too much. Where do you go? It's too much to start with. It's almost that paralysis by analysis, right? Like you've heard that term. So that's part of what the value of this conference is. Really, you're talking. You have a really good platform where you can ask pointed questions. You could say, listen, I'm thinking about this. Like, where do I go as a smaller company, or BMS is another bigger organization, but we're still learning, right, as we go through this journey with our peers in the industry.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think one of the answers to that question you asked from Merck was, start with the need, right? And they selected 10 lanes that were problematic.
Yep.
And kind of started there and then sort of grew organically from there.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think each company that starts in that journey, it's really to come with that exact example to say, okay, in the Merck situation, it was they were having product temperature excursions and they were destroying product, right? They couldn't justify the high temperature, so they needed a way to find those events, as they're happening and figure out a way to intervene and prevent them, right? So that's how they built their business case. Each company might be slightly different depending on where a product is moving and the values, and maybe it's really just reducing deviations, right? And so that's part of that journey that each company can sort of pressure test in this conference and really say, okay, here's my pain point. Has anybody else experienced that? And how do we all learn together to kind of, again, get product going to where it has to go so it's ready for the patients. One of the other key themes that, this conference is a lot on technology. I think, part of where HPCLC is driving toward is really figuring out what do we want to hear about, right? What is the industry's pain points in the future? So I think in the spring we're actually going to be talking more on the regulatory landscape,
okay,
right? So what's changing in the the U.S. elections will be done with, right? So how do we think that'll impact drug pricing reform, and how that impact channel decisions and all these different levers that again impact the supply chain, but we need to start thinking about it now, so it's not a scramble, and we get our partners kind of driving towards that. So it is an interactive conference. We take feedback and figure out what changes do we want to hear from the partners, from everybody here, and how do we sort of build a conference that meets everybody's needs.
Yep.
Which is great.
Excellent. Another topic this morning, Tom, and if this is something you want to comment from the conference perspective, the new OSRA, the ocean regulations, speaking of regulations, and the shifts of the burden of proof from shipper to carrier, and also the new regulation expedites the process for demurrage. Is that something that you see as good news for shippers?
It's a great question. So, part of where sometimes I go to these conferences, I'm learning too. So I didn't even know that law was in effect.
Yeah.
So, but again, it's part of having that platform to kind of learn from, again, it's education based. So, I'm learning just as some of the others in the room may be experts in the space, or, Karen sort of has the legal knowledge, and, there's other shippers or ocean carriers that live it every day, right, with the demurrage charges. But, part of it is to think critically, to say, okay, this is the reality. So Congress came in, they passed a law to help kind of alleviate some of the pain points in the supply chain. Mm-hmm. And then, it's trying to think about how does that impact my business, right? And maybe we don't, BMS, we're not a big ocean shipper on a lot, but, as we're kind of evaluating supply chain costs and different things, we need to start thinking about these parts of the puzzle as we go forward. So, it's getting everybody's wheels turning in the right direction, and opening a dialogue outside of the normal conference theme, and then you can have a conversation here as we are today. So,
there you go.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, hey, Tom, if you had to describe the healthcare supply chain in 3 words,
ooh,
what would it be? What would they be?
So 3 words. So I would say patient-centric focus. So that's how I would kind of describe our supply chain. Again, I'm sitting on the U.S. part of the puzzle, so a lot of everything we're doing is how do we get that product in the best position for that patient so they can use it. It's a common theme across the board. The patient's at the center of decisions that are made. How do we keep kind of innovating? A lot of the companies on the board are developing innovative medicines, so that's part of that theme. We got to think of the patient and how do we best serve them. So,
okay. Any 2 other words?
2 other words
to describe the healthcare supply chain?
Yeah, no, I think the healthcare supply chain is really, innovative from a sense that we're always looking to kind of continuously improve, right? Okay. So I think that's a focus of this conference. It's very digitally focused this time around, mm-hmm. but that's a common theme we keep coming back to, because again, it's a journey. It never ends, right? So you can always continue to do things better. So we use the opportunity to learn from our peers, and again to continue to raise that bar as things change. So
yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.